Welcome to the Winning Balance podcast. We are joined with two of my favorite humans, Copa Capital guys, David and Francisco. Thanks for jumping on.
Of course. We're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Well, we brought you guys out for one of our Beehive events that we had yesterday, and it was good. It was very, very good. I was in the audience just taking notes. But Copa has done some phenomenal things in the hard money space, especially in Utah. I've worked with a ton of different hard money companies, and it's a breath of fresh air dealing with you guys. And I don't say that lightly. We've been working together for what, almost 3 years now.
About almost 3 years, yeah.
So it's been some time ever since I moved to Utah. So it's been amazing. Done a deal with you guys. I invest in your fund. Nothing but the best things to say. But I'm talking too much now. I want to hear the story of Copa Capital. And if you guys want to say your involvement too for the audience on what roles you play in Copa Capital now, and then we can dive into the story. I think that would be amazing.
Tell your side first here.
Yeah, so my involvement is I deploy the money in Arizona and in Utah for Copa Capital. So a loan officer essentially is what I do. And I've been up here for a number of years. But with Copa, it's been going on 3 years this July. Yeah.
And so my role, I'm the, I guess, CEO and founder of the company. And it's kind of something that I've been in this space for 9 years now, since 2017. And so it's been something that I've just loved this space and being able to do it. And so to the question you're asking is that, where's Copa Capital come from? Where did it start? And so Francisco and I worked together at a previous company where I was one of the owners and founders of that, or starters of that fund over there. And we had our morals, our set of what we did, and we grew that for 6-7 years. And finally, it came to a point where it just didn't make sense to be together with the partners I had over there. And so we had a breakup, a shakeup, whatever it is. So one of the key things just to every real estate investor is remember that partnerships are not all perfect, and you just work together. You find ways to work together, and then sometimes they do have to just move on to different ways, right? And so back in 2023, we got to go off and start Copa Capital Partners. So kind of fun. Copa comes from Maricopa, where we come from. And then we actually do a lot of work in the Spanish market. And so Francisco and I both speak Spanish. And because of that, Copa is like the Copa Mundial. It's the World Cup in soccer. It's the pinnacle. It's the trophy. And so we try to be that standard for what we do. And so we started in 2023, and everything about it is just being able to take care of all those partners that we have, both on the borrowing side as well as the investors who invest with us, making sure everybody's winning and earning and growing, because that's the whole goal. Is we're trying to make it so that we improve communities, but then also with that, we want people's livelihoods and families to be able to benefit from making additional income, that they're, whether it's those that are flipping houses to make money on the side of their normal job, or our investors that don't know where to invest their money safely, and they get to put it with us and make a good return. So it's been an amazing journey being able to start and grow, and we've had great growth. We've continued to be, so Francisco, I'm going to say Francisco specifically has been the number one hard money lender in the state of Utah for, how long has it been? 7 years now?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Maybe even 8, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's insane.
It's awesome.
If you're in real estate and doing fix and flips in Utah, you know Francisco's name.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's rare, I should say, that people are in this space for that long and retain a level of reputation that you guys have. So I commend you guys for that, especially Francisco. Like, your name in Utah is, it's phenomenal. And I'll say too, just for the audience, if they're not in the real estate space, which a lot of my audience is, but if they're not, the wholesale world, you guys are the hard money lender. You are the lender. You're giving money to the fix and flip world where they can't go get a loan from a traditional bank,
Yeah.
right? Like they need enough, they need enough, or the lack of credit, or what am I trying to say? Goodness.
Yeah,
Not
they just don't meet the traditional standards,
exactly
right? To be able to get a bank loan, and so we meet that need, right? Of what's
exactly.
out there.
Yeah. And before I let you start, David, what I'll say too, I love what you said about the two different sides of your business. And there's a lot of people that weren't able to make the event last night that are like, did you record it? Did you record it? And I think a lot of them are interested in like the fun side, because I'm telling them I'm getting 11% and I trust these guys with my life, which that's a rare combination.
Yeah.
I feel like in the investment world. And so I love what you said of like, you're providing for these people that are doing the fix and flips, and they're putting a lot of like the sweat equity, the growth, the expertise, which is awesome. I've done that.
Yep.
And now maybe in this phase of my life, I'm like, I'll do some fix and flip here and there, but if I can put my money to work and get 11% and not do a single thing, and I'm just wiring you guys money, and you are providing that for my life, that's like phenomenal, right? So I don't know if you want to expound on that, but you guys' families invested in this fund. You were talking last night about like Thanksgiving is going to be awkward if this goes sideways, but
it's huge. I think the big thing is, think about all the people you know and that you care about. I went through all the training to become a financial advisor. Doing all that training, I realized I didn't 100% agree with what we do as a financial advisor role. And one of that piece is you get licensed as a financial advisor to follow what I call the pie chart. They give you a pie chart and they say, if you stay within this, we as FINRA will protect you at all costs, right? Like that's essentially what it feels like. And so, but if you want to venture outside of that, we won't protect you.
yeah.
And the problem is, you think about all your family and friends and you ask them what they're invested into with their 401k, and I bet you they don't know. They don't know what's in there, and they don't understand why it goes up and down. They just know it goes up and down. And so what I love about what we do is we took a very simple model where flipping homes makes sense. Everybody understands it. It's difficult, but it makes sense of what they're doing. They understand there's a house, a collateral to the deal, but they also understand there's financing to it. And so we took the financing to a level where people get to come in and partner and be able to come in with us and invest into our fund. And so it's family and friends, right? We don't do any marketing for our fund. It's only through friends that we get to share what we do. And so with that said, as your community, like they get to be part of that because of you as their friend and their family. And, but yeah, so it is our family that started it, right? They came in and they invested into the fund, and it's real simple. We go lend it on houses. We're in first position to protect the money. We're always worrying about protecting that money. And so when we put out loans, we're looking for relationships on the borrowing side. It's hard to go out and find new, borrowing relationships without a referral, because you don't have that protection anymore. And we want them to be successful so that we get paid, and then we get to pay the investor. So real simple. We charge the investor that's flipping the home somewhere around a 14% rate, all included. It comes in, we pay our investors that 9% or 11%, depending on which fund they come into. And there's some nuances to the two, right? But they get that every month, and they get to earn. And I can't tell you how many people we have that live off that income, that some of our investors are out traveling the world, enjoying their lives, and knowing that they're getting a paycheck every month. And it's such a huge benefit. And yes, it's a joke, but yes, Thanksgiving, it would be very awkward to show up to Thanksgiving to any of us in our company. Like every one of our employees too has family in the fund. So it would be huge. It's huge that we have, that we take care of that money and protect it.
Well, and speaking of going back to family and friends, it is my family too. Our monies are invested in there for our personal families. And so when we're talking about lowering risk, it really is about the discipline that we lend with. If I'm deploying a majority of the money, I'm very careful to know where it goes and who it goes to. We do say no a lot to the borrowers that are coming in that just isn't going to work. The deal might not work, but we keep the fund very protected. It is a boring fund because it's a very disciplined fund. We stay very close to the markets that we are in. We have boots on the ground in those markets because that's how we know the product. So I think that's the biggest thing is making sure that we stay very disciplined.
Yeah, I like it. And I, for the audience sake too, I know you guys wear multiple hats because of where you're at in the business, but for simplicity, David is raising a lot of money for the fund and Francisco is putting that money to work. Is that safe to say?
Yeah,
Fair.
yeah, and maybe just through our office. So, how we see it is, yes, most of the money I'm raising the money, but then my main role for the fund protection is every deal that comes in over the last 5,000. I don't know how many loans we're at, but over history, I review every one of them coming in. I'm kind of the final stop of looking at it to make sure that as a high level that we're good with what we're doing. That's where I feel the most protection on the fund is being there. And so it's the best use of my time. Francisco is out putting the money out and making sure those deals are good deals to come through and being able to protect the money, protect it and bring them so it's easy for me when I review them, right?
Yeah.
But we have our processing team to our underwriting team to each one of them that's carrying those hats. And then one of the other partners, so Chris, he's over there overseeing the servicing side. And if someone doesn't make their payment, he's all about protection on being able to get the payments in and get it taken care of. And then our CFO obviously making sure that the financials are correct, because we've got to report every month to how things are going and tell our investor network of what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
I love it. One question I have for you guys. I picture knowing kind of your model and the fund structure that we talked about last night of how you're raising this money. It has to be put to work constantly because you're paying that interest rate regardless, right?
Yep.
And so that means that Francisco has the stress of getting enough hard money deal, and you're the number one hard money lender in Utah. So obviously it's easier for you to do it than maybe, I shouldn't say easier. You've figured out the system better than most people, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of and from my perspective, a lot of stress of you got to go put this money to work. David, you have a lot of stresses as a CEO, executive, operator. I'd love to hear your guys' perspective on how you're managing that stress with family life. And then the second part of that question is how you're incorporating that family-oriented culture into Copa with your employees and that nature, because I know you guys do a phenomenal job of that too.
I'll start maybe on that. So, a well-managed fund, there shouldn't be a lot of surprises. There's a lot of projecting, and we have good people in the office. David, our CFO, they know and they get a feel for how money's coming in. The idea is to consistently grow the fund, right? The more you grow it, the more safe and the more stronger a lending group you can be. So how do you bring money in responsibly and not outpace it? Because the kiss of death a lot of times for lenders is running out of money. You can't run out of money. We've never negated on any of their contracts. So every time we've never missed a closing. And that's a fantastic thing to say. After, over $500 million or more that I've done personally, we've never missed a closing. And that's an important piece because, and so we shouldn't be surprised at any point. There are some things to do. So as we're beginning to ramp up, we are, and David can speak more to how that happens behind the scenes a little bit, but I look at my marketing base and how to ramp it up or bring it down just a minute so that we don't outpace and that everybody that we bring in, we are taking care of. Maybe that's an important piece. So that's how we view it. It is there's a little bit of flex in there, but we're always making sure that the borrowers that their needs are being met when we commit to the money.
And before I let you expound on that, for myself, I'm thinking, how do you turn it up, and how do you slow down? Is that less outreach? Is that less like follow up? Is that like, what does that look like?
There's never a substitute for personal contact. When I want to increase my lending base, I'm going to increase my personal contacts and reach out to the individuals that I have. And that's part of the KPIs that we carry, right? So I know how to bring that to a different place. We want to make sure we keep everything warm, but there's ways to be able to increase your reach out, increase some of those KPIs, and be able to reach out. So it is about the personal contacts. I can grow that. I can bring it to a balanced effort, but make no mistake about it. We're always putting a lot of money out.
Yeah.
So that machine is always running at a good pace. It's just about, okay, here comes this group of money. We are going to increase our outreach. And that's the effort I think that we have to live with is how do we increase, how do we keep the money moving out and not outpace it?
So do you feel like it's not as stressful as maybe I feel like it is?
Being in the business a long time and having a lot of, it's about relationships. I love the relationships that we have and we built. It's about trust. And so to maybe to some degree, yes, it's less stressful because I enjoy what I do. Mm-hmm. And I know that the phone calls can trigger top of mind. We compete in a space that's very competitive. And so we do have a lot of lenders who are constantly working with the same borrowers that we are. How do we stay top of mind? It's personal contact.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I am going to reach out aggressively and have a good conversation. And many times in those phone calls, they've got a deal sitting there that maybe somebody was trying to pitch them a little differently or restructure it to make it fit. And so those phone calls are gold. We don't skip that piece. We don't market openly, right? We don't have this marketing spend. It is our relationships. And so how do I increase those conversations? But they're always there. Yeah. I don't say I decrease them because I don't. How do I increase them or keep them at a good, solid pace?
Yeah. And you have 7 kids, so the stress of work is probably...
I have not just 7.
Been through it.
Work's easy.
Yeah. It isn't just 7 kids. I got 5 daughters.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So that brings me to a pretty stable, patient place. Yeah, no.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you went through 5 daughters and now work stress is just smooth sailing.
Yeah. So the lending's easy after 5 daughters. Yeah.
It's a battle. It's a battle we take because we want to grow. We want to be able to do things. And to your question of like just the balance of balancing it, are we good at balancing it? No, we're always working towards balancing, right? Like no one's perfect at it. When I started the previous fund and started that years ago in 2017, we were in the middle of raising our family, like growing our family, raising our family, and I remember the days of just what I put into it. It was an entrepreneurship startup, right? I was living at it. I remember the worst time I've ever had in my career of not having the balance was my first hire. So we had grown, I had grown the fund to a certain size by myself of just having to put all the loans out, having to oversee it. And we had one gal that's still with us today, that Gretchen, that was helping me out, and it was huge. She kept taking on more workload when she was actually supposed to work part-time. She kept helping me. It was great. But our first hire was actually my previous boss from the bank. She's still with us as well today, Kendra. And I remember hiring her, and I'd spend my day training her during the day, fielding calls to do loans. And then I'd go home to spend time with my family at 7:00, go spend time with my family at 9:00 after everyone went to bed. I went back to the office until there was mornings driving home at 3 in the morning, driving home in order to wake up in the morning at 7 again and be able to go back to work. And so it was the craziest time in our lives. And when we started Copa, I remember the moment going to my wife and saying, "Are you willing to go through this again if that's what it takes?" And she said, "I'm willing to, but can we do it different?" Right? And so we did. We did it different. We brought in, so what we did is the different side is we put a lot of money into this round. Like when we got to do it, we were fortunate to have made some money in the last part. And so instead, we got to bring the team on with us. So when we started Copa, we started with, really, I mean, over the first month, we brought in everybody, about 6 people. We had 6 people come in. And so we had a high payroll. We had money coming in. We weren't making enough money to pay that money. And so it was kind of a 6 months of just burning a hole. But at the same time, we had the benefit of being able to have a life because all of us were helping. And so there wasn't the working till 3 a.m. Now, there's still some of those nights here and there when you have to, but overall, we've tried to balance that work-life balance where it's not that we don't work a lot, it's that we take the time off when we need to.
Yeah.
I can make it to all my kids' events, but I might not be the one that's there in the morning to get them going for school. I might not be there for every moment, but I'm there for all the key moments, and that's what matters the most
I
to
like
me.
that. And that's what I've learned running this podcast is like there's never true balance, and there's seasons of like crazy sprints, and then there's maybe seasons where you're taking your family to Lake Powell, and that's extreme balance on the other side of family, right? Which yeah, but I mean, you mentioned that your wife said, well, we need to do it differently this time. What are some of those things that she stated? Is it like less 3 a.m. morning or 3 a.m. work nights? Was it?
She didn't mind though. She never knew. She would every morning it was, what time did you come in last night? And so, I think some of the big ones were just understanding what I needed to be at. I think the biggest thing I've learned over the years is to listen to her on what I need to be to and where I need to correct. And that's the biggest part is we need to be able to go on dates with our wives, be able to have those moments where you talk and know, hey, you need to be here for this, or you need to make this correction. Personally, I could work 24/7 and be fine, right? Like that's mentally I can do that, but
Yeah.
it's you need that partner to be able to help you to understand. And and now I would say the biggest thing is I love to play, and so I work very hard at times so that I can have the times to play and go to Lake Powell and go play, right? So but other than that, I think it's being able to share the workload and not being greedy of what pieces I want to make more money, and so instead I'd rather have an employee to help out and have a team member that works with us. So it's trying to share that workload wherever we can.
I like it. And I thought it was cool last night you said something that stuck with me of like the lean model of like, hey, we might have 30 million assets under management and we can operate and make the same as an $80 million fund that, right? And so, I mean, I'd love to hear your perspective on this. And Francisco, I'd love your thoughts too. And just on the operational side, you went from building what $245 million fund with your previous gig, and then
That's right.
this new one. I mean, you guys are 3 years in, and where are you at today?
So we sit right around, we're right about the 85 million of actual our assets under management, maybe a little more, but yeah, somewhere right around there.
That's amazing.
It's
In
great.
3 years.
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. You can choose which model you want, right? We kind of fall in the middle, I would call it. We're trying to enjoy it. We're trying not to push ourselves to a level where we're not comfortable. But I've got a friend that I go to lunch with every once in a while, a couple times a year. He runs a fund as well. We sit down and talk, and it's funny. We've talked over the years. He has always had a fund that's been about that 80 million, grown a little more than that. And it's really just 2 of them doing it. And when we're at lunch, his phone does not stop ringing. And he doesn't understand my model. I don't understand his model. I want my life. I want to be able to do what we want to do. And so ours is lean enough to be able to, be profitable, but at the same, and not trying to overgrow. But on the other side is we want enough people in our team so that we're not all overburdened. Someone can go on vacation. Someone else can cover. I'm not the best at this, but typically if Francisco's on vacation, he should be able to say, hey, can you take care of this borrower for me? And he has the confidence that I can take care of his borrower while he's out spending time with his family. And like I said, I'm not the best at it through this growth, but it's trying to be able to help each other wherever
Yeah.
we can.
I like it. Francisco, I mean, the lens that I'd love to see from your perspective is working on this. I mean, I want to say dispo, but that's probably different for but the lending and snagging loans.
Mhm.
How has that looked like from a 245 million fund versus now starting at zero on this fund, being there from the trenches and growing it up to 85 million? Like, what has your role changed at all in that? I mean, I would assume it has to some degree, right?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of pressure up front to making sure that the money was deployed and deployed quickly, at least the first group of money, because it is costly to hold money in a fund. And so that did create some stress to be able to come in and recreate a brand too, rebrand all that we had done previously, and to do it under a new name.
Yeah.
Where the consistency was the relationships that I built, and that was the base, which helped a tremendous amount, right? Making sure that I'm still me, I'm still going to deliver for you, and helping it grow. And so that's that. I think that's probably the biggest piece. One good thing about the way that this fund is run is everybody is cross-trained, or to the best that we can, because that's what allows a flexibility. When he had mentioned one of the underwriters, when they're out, we have the ability to have that looked at and reviewed differently too. So when I'm out, yes, cross-trained. And David's been great at helping me if I need to take a moment off. Family and values are very core to what we do. And so we understand we're going to need a little bit of time off here and there. And so that cross-training has made a big difference. Nobody's just pigeonholed in one spot and nobody can do their work. So maybe that's the biggest thing that's been wonderful for us.
I love that. And in terms of like implementing the family, the core values into Copa, that sounds like a prime example of just giving people the flexibility.
Yeah. The beauty about this fund too, because it was created from the ground up, you were able to bring on people that had a lot of the similar culture. And that shows through every facet, from the money raising to the lending to the servicing. It really is a cultural feel. And David did a great job at the previous fund also at creating a team that felt that way. But here, when it's truly from the ground up, it's been that, and it is that. We enjoy coming to work. And I think borrowers can feel that when they work with us, that this isn't this conglomerate with multiple layers. They visit with me. They visit directly with some of our team when they're doing draws. It's a very close-knit group, and we care about the service side. It is world-class service when you come to us, and you're going to get that every time. And that's what we preach, because in this industry where it's expensive money, hard money is not cheap.
Yeah.
And we got to make it easy, got to be efficient, and they got to trust us. Without trust, this money, it isn't, you can't win without having high levels of trust. So when we talk about borrowers, our perfect borrower is one that I can trust. That's character. And I really enjoy that when I visit with individuals. And I think, and we have some here in town that are just incredible. I can give you 10 names of individuals that they're just going to do what they say, and I'm going to do what I say. But that makes a big difference. Is how that works with the trust.
Our team, it's really cool. Our team has the ability to do what they need for their family. It was funny leaving. I left yesterday or 2 days ago from Arizona, came up here, and Fridays we actually implemented about I don't know, been about 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, we implemented where employees get to work from home on Friday. So they get that flexibility to be with their families and work. And there's days I laugh. I've talked to them a few times, like, is that good? Is it bad? They're like, we love it. But some days it's the worst Friday, the busiest Friday of all, and the other Fridays it's actually nice because we get to enjoy it. So it's been something it was a small implementation that made a big difference. But yeah, so leaving, I said, hey, I'll see you guys on Monday. And two of our staff said, oh, I guess I'll see you even later, because they had already gotten approval to be able to work from home for a few more days for something they had to take care of. So we've got that flexibility of being able to get your job done, but also what you need to do and take care of for your family. And it comes from all the way from the bottom. We give them a lot of time off to go and work, to actually go on vacation, some flexibility in where they can work. I mean, just back to their health insurance. I mean, we cover 100% of the employee. We cover, I can't remember what percentage of the family, but a large percentage of the
Which is a
family.
big deal these days.
It is. And we want them to, I've always been so proud every time, and one of our employees over the years has been able to come in with a new car or with, something, or buy a new home. Like, I feel like that's just part of the culture. We get to help build and help each other. And when we started Copa, our whole team came from our previous shop, and everyone took a pay cut to start. So they had been growing with us all these years, and they knew what it took to start this again. And so they came in with pay cuts to start and knew that, hey, they'll be taken care of again. And so it's just been that amazing culture to build and work together through everything, and take care of one another. So you have your families at home that you need to take care of, but then you have your staff that's all part of that same family to work together and take care of each other.
That's amazing. And one question I have for both of you guys, and I think it'll be fun to hear both your perspectives on this, but I'd love to hear how the conversations with the wife went on this massive transition of part of a well-oiled machine per se, or some longevity there, and you've built this, David, specifically from the ground up, and now all this uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
and jumping to the new phase. I'd love to hear how those conversations went.
So actually really funny first. My partnership blew up on March 31st. The next day is April 1st. March 31st, I sat down with my family and my kids, and I explained to them that I'd be home for a little bit as I figured out what I was going to do next. And there was just a lot of figuring out, right, for the next few months. And April 1st, one of our friends, as a prank, they had no idea what was going on, put a for sale sign in our front yard. So my kids come out the next morning going to school, and they come running, "It's that bad, Dad? We're losing our house?" And so it's just funny to look back, like, but it was a whole family to sit down to understand what was going on. Like, hey, we're gonna be okay. We'll figure out what's next and how we'll do this. But I've been very blessed with the partner that I have in life, of having my wife, and she, from day one, there was never any worry. It was the confidence in that we would put it together and do it again, and whatever it would take. But obviously, the comment earlier that she, let's try to figure out a way to do this so we can be able to spend time as a family.
Yeah.
So she's all in, I guess, is the real answer there.
I love it. Thanks, David.
Yeah, my wife is a saint, so she is very trusting of what
she
we
has
do.
to deal with him, by the way. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's why she's a saint. But I think what it came down to is trusting David's the way that he put together the team that I came on with the previous fund. That mattered, because I looked at that and I thought, okay, this was created, very successful. He's gonna, and I'm watching, and he's gonna. At first it wasn't clear, but then he's like, I'm creating a new fund, and I thought it's going to be recreated. Not only that, because he's got full control, basically, the upside is massive in the new venture. Was it difficult taking a pay cut? And I say that because you're putting out a tremendous amount of money, and then you have to bring it back because you can't put it at the same level. And so, was it worth it? Absolutely. I remember having a conversation about 2 months after he started the new fund, and I hadn't made a switch yet. And someone said, "Well, it came down to saying, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm Team David. I got to do it. We're going." And so then we made a decision to make that change. Speaking to my wife and family, very supportive. They know the trajectory that this could go in, and it has been fantastic. And it was the right decision, because it is about culture, and creating it again, because again, it's about trust. Now, I would have maintained the same lending, parameters, whether I left or not, but it's about the upside and looking at what was created to recreate. That was exciting. And it was very exciting, by the way. Starting a new something from the ground up is exciting, because sky's the limit. We're talking about 240. We can go to 500 million. Like this is just 3 years in, and this won't stop. So where's the limit? There is no limit. We're going to continue to grow it as much as possible over time, responsibly.
Yeah, and I think the faith or the commitment of everyone coming over was just huge. It was, there was a couple right off the bat of like, so for about 3 months, I didn't know what I was going to do. Honestly, I was in a lawsuit with my partners, right? So it was kind of figuring out what that was going to end up being. And when that settled and we knew this is the route we're going to go, and I essentially went to everyone and said, hey, are you willing to come? And it's not going to be beautiful off the start. It's just going to be, this is what we're going to do. The commitment of everybody to take the jump, the leap of faith and go was, I mean, huge for me to see just everyone willing to come and rally behind. It's crazy. We our first office, sorry, was this little, we called it our overlooking the Central Park, but it was this junky park. And it was this junky park that this little rinky office that we were barely, it wasn't even no one had an office. I mean, it was, it was crazy. And so we were in there for about a year before we took on a lease to move into a big, nice suite. And we're outgrowing that. They're building us a new suite right now that we're moving into. And it's just been awesome. It's been awesome to be part of such an amazing team and amazing growth. But it did take a lot of faith from everyone to be able to take that leap.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what I'll say, I know like some of the backstory of like why you left and like the ethical boundaries there and the values. And I think it's a cool statement to say that Copa was born out of ethics, like almost a necessity, right? And the people that came with you share those same beliefs, obviously. So it's
100%.
It's kind of cool to see how it's played out. And that trust that you guys have hinted on of just like, on two fronts, I, as a borrower, I've been through your process and it was seamless, which is what you want in hard money. You're paying a higher interest rate than traditional rates because you want it to be easy, you want it to be quick, you want it to be a seamless process. And that was definitely the case for me. But then also expounding on that trust of, if I'm sending you my hard-earned dollars, that level of trust and the personal contact that Francisco is like one of the best in the world at. Like anyone that meets Francisco and has a short conversation with is just like, you can tell he's a phenomenal human. And so it makes it easier to send money. And meeting David, I don't know you as well as Francisco, but it translates just the same. So you guys have built a great business in that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, the next question I have for you is like a more generic question that I ask most guests on here. I feel like Utah's a super unique culture. I'm born and raised in Seattle, which has its own culture. But I think like you go to Miami, they love business, they love money, but family is probably lower on the totem pole. Utah, I feel like, is unique, and they're young hustlers. There's a lot of hustle. They want that business success, but they also value that family. And so what would your advice be to those young hustlers that are trying to go after both, right?
Yeah, no, I think, so I'm 50 years old. I've seen a little bit now, and I've got young hustler sons and daughters, and they're getting into that young adult world too. And priorities matter, but keeping your priorities consistent matters most. And I think that's where you have to really say, okay, look at from the end, from the beginning, and say, what do I want to create in life? And then look at, just like KPIs in business world, you have to come back and say, what are my dailies? What are my weeklies? And what are my priorities, and how do I keep them consistently the same? Yes, there's times where you're going to be, 3, 4, 5 months grinding something, but it can't be what you do. And so for me, priorities are, let's say, faith, family, and work. And if I'm more specific, I'm saying God, I'm saying my wife, my children, and then my work. And it has to stay in that range, or I lose balance. And not only that, I'm not going to create what I want. I don't want to die with millions in the bank and empty people or nobody around my bed. You know what I mean? I want to create a legacy where family is first, and where I feel that I've raised a righteous posterity, let's say, let's put it that way. And that's where I find the most joy and rejoicing. You can do both if you keep the right priorities in balance. You know, and one of them I'll say is, yes, God's first. And even before your wife, you have needs. You, not wants, needs. You got to have a distinction between the two. Because if you can meet your own needs and make sure you're meeting those, whether it be physical, emotional, spiritual needs, then your wife can lean on you. Your children can lean on you. And my wants come after their needs, you know, and even my wants sometimes come after a little bit of my work. So I distinction between my needs and my wants, making sure that I'm meeting my needs, and they should be meeting their needs in order for people to be able to rely on them. So maybe that's the right balance or approach, but consistently putting your priorities in place and being intentional about it. It yields the most wealth of joy. And you can have both. You can have a work life that is very successful, but you can't lose the joy in it. There's no joy in just having money. So where is the joy coming from? It is the relationships that you build. Again, I'm 50. I look back and I think the body of work that's happened in my life, what matters most, where I find the most rejoicing, is when I can purchase a little time to spend the memories or buy the memories with the people that I love. And so both have to go hand in hand, but you can't look one for the other. You end up with a lot of money, but a failed homes. You're just not going to have joy, and it'll be empty money. And so, as you're starting off as a young hustler, keep the priorities in place. That's maybe my biggest advice, and consistently do it. And you'll see that you'll transform yourself into something that's going to have joy, and it'll be successful. Because there's no one that cheers you on more than your own family, right? Your wife will cheer you on. They admire you. Your children admire when you're loving them and keeping them in their proper place, which is a high priority.
Yeah.
You know, and that's maybe the line that I'll say.
I love it.
The other day I was surfing behind our boat, and I tried to do a 360 in a way that shot my board out really far. And so whatever, I had to swim out to the board, and you put your head down, you swim, right? But I was swimming for a little bit to get there, and all of a sudden I look up and I was going the wrong direction. And like I just had veered right. I guess my left arm got strong all of a sudden. I don't know. So I had to correct and go get it. For those that are trying to figure out what to do, the answer is just hustle. You do have to hustle. But you need to always sit down and take a moment to realize which way you're hustling and correct, because you are always going to hustle, but you're hustling to be able to take care of your family. Then you're hustling to go work. And like, yes, you're always going to have times where you're overbalanced on one side, and that's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. You just need to go and correct and understand that you need to correct it. And don't ever think that you're always in the right. And I made the comment already, but when you're married, you have a wife to be able to help you to understand, and you got to listen, you got to understand, and you got to listen to your kids when they're saying, "Hey dad, why are you never at this?" Right? Then be there for the next time. So once again, hustling is the only way. That's my opinion. You have to hustle. It might mean you never get to play video games at home, or you might not get to watch movies at home and do these things, but you need to commit to everything else. So you need to know what you give up to be able to do to hustle in business.
I love it. Just the intention. If you share this intention about business and making money,
Yep.
you got to share that same intention with your family, or else it's going to veer. I love it. I mean, I want to commend you guys for how you show up for your families. Like the amount of like deep conversations I've had with Francisco, I look forward to his advice every single time. And I'm pretty ignorant in who I take advice from. So I'm like, that's the pride in me, but just to show like how much I respect our deep conversations, Francisco, I've always looked forward to those.
Likewise.
One other thing too, I've been through different phases of my life in terms of my career, my business, how I show up for my family, how I show up as like a business owner. And there's been different times when I've like heard people say like my wife, like I couldn't do this without my wife. She's like the reason. She trusts me. I get to go out and do all this. And there's been different phases of my life where I'm like, I think like if only my wife showed up for me that way, then I could go chase this. And I've realized throughout the years of like maturing, luckily, of like how selfish that was. And there's not a single, like, my wife shouldn't have trusted me. Like there was a lot that I was doing that like wedged in the way of her trusting me as a husband, let alone as like a business owner. Right. And so I just want to, like, for the audience, I don't want their train of thought to hear, oh, my wife trusts me and I get to go and do this. I would like, you guys have earned that. And that's what I want the audience to understand. Me seeing both sides of like not giving my wife that trust, and like to where I am now of like, if I told my wife I'm quitting real estate and going and doing a plumbing business, she would give me 2 thumbs up. But I've like put in that work to show up as a husband and as a business owner to build that confidence with her. So I want to commend you guys for like earning that trust, but also like the people that are thinking, if only I had this loving, trusting wife, then I would be as successful as these guys. And I think that trust should be earned. As much as there's unconditional love between you and your spouse, I do think that your spouse has a right to have a say in a trust in where you're at. So that's my rant. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. But
Well, I think about, my son just got married last week. And one of the things that I visited with him about, and men need to be admired by their wives,
I love it.
but the women need to be adored by their husbands.
Yeah.
And it comes hand in hand. And love is important. It's huge. But a man would almost be, at least in my case, admired than loved. It really is. There's something very powerful about that. And love's going to be there. You're going to love your spouse, or they're going to love you. But as you adore your wife and you spend the time showing her that side of your relationship, there's a natural admiration that comes back where you can accomplish anything. Sky's the limit at that point. Think about it. You could just feel it, even just by saying that. And so there's that trade-off. And so, I'll say spend the time with your spouse, adoring her, showing her that means there's a lot of trust. When you adore somebody, you trust, you love them, and you're trustworthy, and you do things together, you plan together. There's no surprises on their side. Like if you're going to start a new business, you're going to visit with her about that. And so I'll leave it at that. There's great admiration when there's great adoration. And that's advice I've given him in his new marriage. Yeah. And that's what I'll give the audience maybe. And I think our young hustlers, if they're newly married, you want your wife to champion you to where you can accomplish anything. Just adore her. That's an important piece.
It's powerful.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And what I mean by a tough one is it's a tough one to try to teach someone how to trust, because trust is not easy to earn.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid sneaking out of my house and getting caught by my parents, and the biggest thing is I lost their trust and truly lost it. And I asked, well, when can I have the trust back to be able to do something? And I remember learning, like, I don't know. The answer is I don't know, and how you have to work towards it, and someday you'll have it again, right? And you're right. It's been something that we've been able to work through and build for all these years. And so there isn't that trust. I mean, until you figure out a way. But I think the one thing that keeps, and I'm going to butcher it, but the movie, The Greatest Showman, he goes through all these risks and everything. And there was one time where she's leaving or whatnot. And it really comes down to, she's like, I would have been willing. You just didn't essentially trust me to include me in it, right? And that's what it comes down to, is like, don't go take the risk without understanding. Now, there is many times where I've gone to my wife and I said, I want to do this, meaning and make this investment, make this opportunity. And she said, I don't think that's wise. And I got her approval to understand that I still was going to go do it, right? Like, it wasn't a question of, it was making sure she understood that I'm going to go take this risk. I feel very confident in it. And she didn't want to, but she came to an agreement to do it. And if she was very adamant, we would have not done it, right?
Yeah,
And we went and did it. And some have paid off, some have not.
exactly.
One most recently has not. But at the same time, it's like, you got to be together. And just all along, you gotta, and that I'm gonna go back to the only advice I really have there is you need to go on dates. You need to be going on a date. Like, if you can do it weekly, that's the blessing. I can't tell you how many couples I've talked to over the years where they have not ever been away and left their kids with a babysitter. That is the worst thing you could do, in my opinion, to your family and to your kids. You and your wife need that. Your kids need that for you and your wife. So
I love it.
go on dates.
Yeah, no, that's something we've been implementing recently,
Yeah.
and it's been a game changer.
It's
Like,
hard. I get
yeah.
it. I get it. It's hard though.
It is hard, but it goes back to, it does add like this fresh new spark to
Mhm.
feeling like you're dating again, and bringing back a lot of that, especially after having your first kid and
Mhm.
your
Oh,
energy has just sucked for so long. But I love what you guys said there too. And just to wrap up is like, it doesn't always have to be win, win, win
Mhm.
for like this trust that I'm talking about and that you guys are referring to. It's a trust of like communication. It's a trust of like, just being like a loving spouse, like Francisco talked about. And so I love what you guys said. Tons of nuggets that I've pulled from this and will continue to pull from you guys being in my life, and just the tip of the iceberg for our relationship. So I appreciate both of you guys, and thanks for jumping on.
Right back at you. Thanks, Tanner.
Thank you, Tanner.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.